Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 22 minutes before 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Wednesday morning, the day before Thanksgiving. This is News Bites. This is the portion of the morning show where we deliver to you the news, and we do it in abbreviated form. We cut to the chase, get to the point, save you time, and we put news back in News Talk by doing this. It's your opportunity to catch up on the news for the next 22 minutes or so and not have to spend all day in front of the TV trying to figure out what's going on in this world. We'll try to take the stories that are the freshest stories as well as the most important stories and bring them to you from the world, from the nation, from the state, and from right here in Marion County and Ocala. And the first one, and each of the stories that we bring to you, we also, when we have the information, include the resource that we use to get the information. And of course, that way you can look up the story and see what else there was in that story that we didn't include. We try to include the vital points of the story. The first one is actually a news story from Fox News and USA Today. The two news agencies yesterday joined a growing list of news agencies boycotting the use of official White House photography over what it says is an unprecedented lack of access to the president. USA Today Deputy Director of Multimedia Andrew Scott said in a memo to staff the publication will not use handout photos originating from the White House press office anymore, except in very extraordinary circumstances. USA Today is now one of more than 35 news agencies refusing to use White House photography. Last Thursday, a coalition of major news organizations, including the Associated Press, New York Times, Washington Post, ABC, and CNN, protested their photojournalists being locked out of public events in a letter to White House Press Secretary Jay Carney. Wow, interesting story right there. It's kind of implications, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Bitterly cold air is racing into Florida just in time for the busiest travel day of the year, the day before Thanksgiving. Meteorologist Joe Sobel in the Florida Weather Center says temperatures will bottom out tonight into Thanksgiving morning, and even balmy South Florida won't escape the chill. This is a quote from Sobel. All the way down into Key West, it could drop down into the 50s. Around Miami-Dade, we're talking about lows near 50 for Thanksgiving morning. Hundreds of flights from Florida airports to the north, where weather conditions are even worse, have been canceled. Of course, the coldest part of the state will be northern areas, from Pensacola across to Jacksonville, where Sobel says record low temperatures in the mid to upper 20s are expected tomorrow morning. Thanksgiving Day is expected to be sunny, with highs reaching around 70 in South Florida, just the 50s in North Florida, but warmer air will clearly begin to be felt Friday into the holiday weekend.
And the next story is from CNN. Congress went home for Thanksgiving break without passing a farm bill. If the bill drags out beyond New Year's Day, it could send milk prices soaring to $7 a gallon. A key sticking point holding up the bill is funding for food stamps. House Republicans want to make changes that would drop 3.8 million people from food stamps next year, while Senate Democrats are not keen on making those cuts, but the clock is ticking on milk prices too. That's because if Congress does not pass a farm bill by January, subsidies for dairy and other commodities will expire, and that will trigger a funding formula from the 1940s that could lead prices of several commodities like corn, soybeans, and wheat to spike.
The Internal Revenue Service created a new definition of political activity in its first attempt to reset the boundaries of permissible campaign involvement by tax-exempt groups. The rules defining candidate-related political activity being released today would prohibit social welfare groups from counting certain communications that identify a candidate and voter registration drives as satisfying their nonprofit mission. The initial guidance from the IRS and the Treasury Department does not not answer an important question. How much political activity can such groups conduct without jeopardizing their tax-exempt status? This is a quote from Paul S. Ryan, senior counsel at the Campaign Legal Center. This is a very good sign that the IRS is expressing an appetite to do something here. This is reported by Bloomberg.
And the next story is from the Reuters news agency. CBS News has asked 60 Minutes reporter Laura Logan to take a leave of absence following a flawed report on the September 11th, 2012 attack of the U.S. diplomatic mission in Benghazi, Libya, according to a memo from the chairman of CBS News, Jeff Fager. Logan's producer, Max McClellan, was also put on leave, according to the memo, which was addressed to CBS News employees. A copy of the memo was obtained by Reuters. Fager is also executive producer of 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes fell short by broadcasting a now discredited account of an important story and did not take full advantage of the reporting abilities of CBS News that might have prevented it from happening, was a quote in the memo. And again, I got that story from Reuters.
This is reported by the Associated Press. Beijing is waging a war against air pollution, one barbecue at a time. Authorities in the capital have destroyed more than 500 open-air barbecues to cut PM 2.5, the tiny particulate matter in the air that can enter deep into the lungs. Photos carried by state media showed workers on Tuesday cutting pieces of metal with sparks flying as city wardens looked on. Citizens online ridiculed the exercise, suggesting authorities should focus on bigger sources of pollution. A media officer at Beijing's Zhejiang District Administration Bureau has said that hundreds of barbecue grills were confiscated over a 3-month campaign and cut up so they couldn't be used again. She refused to give her name, as is common with Chinese officials. Environmental campaigner Ma Jun said residents had complained to environmental agencies in the past about the odor and smoke from open-air barbecues.
The next story is from CBS. Visiting the DreamWorks animation studio in Glendale, California yesterday, President Obama told employees of the film industry that their work has profound influence both at home and abroad. In the wake of tragedies like the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, the entertainment industry should be mindful of that power, he said, quoting him, quote, "When it comes to issues like gun violence, we've got to make sure that we're not glorifying it because the stories you tell shape our children's outlook and their lives," unquote. Mr. Obama went on to say, "The stories we tell matter, and you tell stories more powerfully than anybody else on earth," unquote. Citing the positive impact of the entertainment industry's influence, he added, "Even as we think long and hard about the messages we send, we should never waver from the commitment to the freedom that allows us to tell those stories so well." And that was from CBS.
Pope Francis surprised the world with his comments on homosexuality, abortion, and birth control. But now Pope Francis has taken on another hot-button political issue, trickle-down economics. In his first apostolic exhortation, the Pope took issue with so-called trickle-down economic theories, which in the U.S. are closely associated with President Ronald Reagan's economic policies. Francis said trickle-down policies have not been proven to work, and they reflect a naive trust in the goodness of those wielding economic power. In this context, some people continue to defend trickle-down theories, which assume that economic growth, encouraged by a free market, will inevitably succeed in bringing about greater justice and inclusiveness in the world. This is reported by ABC News.
The next story is being reported by National Geographic. The oldest Buddhist shrine has been uncovered in Nepal, and that may push back the date of Buddha's birth by about another 100 years. Archaeologists say they have uncovered evidence of the oldest Buddhist shrine dating to around 550 BC, located at Nepal's Lumbini Pilgrimage Center, the legendary site of the Buddha's birth. The discovery points to the renowned religious figure living more than a century earlier than dates accepted by many scholars. What we have got is the earliest Buddhist shrine in the world, says archaeologist Robin Cunningham of the United Kingdom's Durham University, who was also the lead author of the discovery study. And the report was released on Monday by the journal Antiquity. In the study, the International Archaeology Team reports digging beneath existing brick structures at the shrine, which is visited yearly by hundreds of thousands of pilgrims.
The Iran nuclear accord agreed in Geneva will rely heavily on the International Atomic Energy Agency to make it stick, requiring more inspectors to carry out many more visits. Experts from the EU who brokered the Geneva deal will hold talks this week with IAEA officials about how to put the agreement into practice. The agreement gives Iran some sanctions relief in return for strict curbs on the country's nuclear program. The IAEA, which did not take direct part in the negotiations, is now likely to be caught between Iran and the West if there are disputes over how the 6-month interim deal is being implemented. This is reported by The Guardian.
And this is from ABC News. As the ink dries on the new Iranian nuclear deal, President Obama moved to push the Middle Eastern nation to help return former FBI agent Robert Levinson, who disappeared in Iran's Kish Island in 2007. Today, Mr. Levinson becomes one of the longest-held Americans in history, said a White House statement. As we approach the upcoming holiday season, we reiterate the commitment of the United States government to locate Mr. Levinson and bring him home safely to his family, friends, and loved ones. We welcome the assistance of our international partners in this investigation, and we respectfully ask the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran to assist us in securing Mr. Levinson's health, welfare, and safe return. That was a quote, by the way. Levinson disappeared in March 2007 after he traveled to Kish Island off of Iran's southern coast. The 65-year-old is a retired 28-year veteran of the FBI and DEA who was in the country as a private investigator.
The United Nations is mustering planes, ferries, and trucks to boost its relief efforts in the Philippines, with food still a priority almost 3 weeks after Typhoon Haiyan ripped into the country, killing over 5,230 people and affecting more than 13 million others. Nearly 3.5 million of them left homeless. There has been significant progress in the delivery of relief items, and we continue to widen the geographic reach of the operation so that we can get to people on outlying islands. As we enter the third week of this emergency response, food remains a priority need for affected communities. This is a quote from UN World Food Program Country Director Praveen Agrawal. This is reported by UN News.
And here's a human interest / Thanksgiving story from the Associated Press. Jeff Ansorge once commanded a staff of 17 and made around $80,000 a year as executive chef at a posh downtown Minneapolis restaurant where a 24-ounce dry-aged porterhouse steak goes for $48. But he gave it all up to become the head cook of a Salvation Army soup kitchen where the meals are free. Now he brings his culinary skills to bear, making salmon, ribs, and stews for the poor and homeless who come to the Salvation Army East Side Core Community Center in St. Paul for the Thanksgiving meal that's being served today. Ansorge planned a traditional feast of turkey with stuffing, mashed potatoes and gravy, cranberry sauce, and rolls served on tables covered with white tablecloths. It is not your old-fashioned soup kitchen where you get a bowl of soup and a piece of bread and are sent on your way. He makes phenomenal meals that you would pay quite a bit of money to go to a restaurant and have, according to a quote from Salvation Army Captain John Joyner. He said that of Ansorge, who left the Capitol Grill to run the soup kitchen, and the clients agree.
In an escalating standoff reminiscent of the Cold War, China yesterday responded angrily to news that 2 U.S. B-52 bombers had flown over a contested chain of islands in the East China Sea without first alerting Beijing, just days after China unilaterally announced an expanded air defense zone around the islands. The Pentagon's sudden dispatch of the bombers was meant as a show of support for close ally Japan, which is in a protracted sovereignty dispute with China over the islands. But the move risks escalating an already heated situation, according to an editorial posted on the website of China Daily, a state-supported newspaper known to closely track Beijing's official positions on such matters, reported by the Washington Times.
And this is from the Associated Press. A storm bearing down on the East Coast with a messy mix of snow, rain, and wind is threatening to ground crowned giant balloon versions of Snoopy and SpongeBob SquarePants in tomorrow's Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. The iconic characters that soar between the Manhattan skyscrapers every year may not lift off tomorrow if sustained winds exceed 23 miles per hour and gusts exceed 34 miles per hour, according to city rules enacted after fierce winds in 1997 caused a Cat in the Hat balloon to topple a light pole and seriously injure a woman spectator. Current forecasts call for sustained winds of 20 miles per hour and gusts of 36 miles per hour. At this time, it's too early to make any determinations on the flight of the giant balloons, according to Macy's spokesman Orlando Veras. He went on to say, on Thanksgiving morning, Macy's works closely with the New York Police Department, who, based on real-time weather data and other official regulations, determine if the balloons will fly and at what heights. Balloons have only been grounded once in the parade's 87-year history, when bad weather kept them from flying in 1971. They're set to be inflated in Manhattan sometime this evening. The parade was awash in animal-related protests over the floats, with controversies involving the unlikely pairing of rocker Joan Jett and Shamu, the killer whale.
Wow.
There you go. I'm not so sure what that has to do with the balloons, but that was the last line.
One former stripper is making it her life's work to go into strip clubs, not to ogle or dance, but to evangelize. Jamie Hindeman, age 35, is hoping to save women's bodies and souls. She founded the group called Divine in Orange County, California. The group, Strippers for Jesus, is part of a nationwide network of like-minded ministries called Strip Church. Heinemann admits she's not exactly Mother Teresa. This is a quote from Heinemann. But where did Jesus hang out? Who is going to go back and love these girls? Someone's got to do it. Heinemann worked as a stripper for 3 years and ended up with zero self-esteem, hating men. She said she was raped by one of her customers and claims 100% of strippers are sexually assaulted or raped on the job. Now she spends Saturday nights stuffing pink paper bags with sugary treats, nail polish, makeup, and Christian literature in the hopes that she will win over other dancers. Heinemann has since found Christian compassion even for the men who frequent strip clubs. She said she sees them as sinners guilty of lust like she was, reported by ABC News. Strippers for Jesus.
Next story from the Washington Times. The Obama administration, in what's been called an egregious slap in the face to the Vatican, has moved. How do you say that word, Robin? Egregious? Egregious?
Egregious.
Thank you. Slap in the face to the Vatican has moved to shut down the U.S. Embassy to the Holy See, a freestanding facility, and relocate offices on the grounds of the larger American Embassy in Italy. The new offices will be in a separate building on the property, and while U.S. officials are touting the relocation as a security measure that is a precautionary reaction to last year's attacks on America's facility in Benghazi, several former American envoys are raising the red flag, saying it's a slap in the face to Roman Catholics.
The U.S. Supreme Court will hear a dispute in the bankruptcy of a small-town pizza shop owner, taking on a case that could dictate how inherited individual retirement accounts are treated in bankruptcy. The nation's highest court yesterday said it would hear arguments in Clark versus Ramaker in a fight over whether Heidi Heffron Clark and her husband Brandon Clark can keep creditors from going after $300,000 in an IRA inherited from Heffron Clark's late mother. The hearing should clear up a split among lower courts that have issued divergent rulings on the issue and could impact retirement and end-of-life planning. The Clarks declared bankruptcy in 2010 after the pizza shop they opened in their hometown of Soughton, Wisconsin, fell victim to economic hardship, the couple's lawyer, Michael Murphy, told Reuters on Tuesday. And this, of course, was reported by Reuters.
And this from CNN, it's not your imagination. Chocolate is known as a joy stimulant. According to a study published in the Journal of Psychopharmacology, those who drank a polyphenol-rich chocolate drink once every day, the equivalent of 1.5 ounces of dark chocolate, reported feeling calmer and more content than those who did not. Cocoa boosts brain serotonin, according to ethnobotanist Chris, the medicine hunter Killam, who has traveled the world in search of traditional plant-based medicines. Almost every single antidepressant aims at either enhancing serotonin or keeping it in the brain longer. Chocolate or cocoa does that very well. So if you're craving chocolate, what you could really be craving isn't something sweet, but something to make you smile.
In the early years after 9/11, the CIA turned some Guantanamo Bay prisoners into double agents, then sent them home to help the U.S. kill terrorists, current and former U.S. officials are saying. The CIA promised the prisoners freedom, safety for their families, and millions of dollars from secret accounts. It was a risky gamble. Officials knew there was a chance that some prisoners might quickly spurn their deal and kill Americans. For the CIA, that was an acceptable risk in a dangerous business. For the American public, which was never told, the program was one of the many secret trade-offs the government made on its behalf. At the same time, the government used the fear of terrorism to justify jailing people indefinitely. It was releasing dangerous people to work for the CIA, reported by The Guardian.
And this one from the Associated Press. 2 people were arrested yesterday after 3 girls told authorities that they have been imprisoned in an Arizona home for possibly the past 2 years. Tucson police said the girls are siblings ages 12, 13, and 17, and their mother and stepfather,
Oh, gosh.
Oh, boy.
That's tough.
Their mother and stepfather, you have to read it. Here, read that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Robin's going to take over.
Their mother and stepfather have been arrested in a case that's being investigated as alleged child abuse and imprisonment. Police said a 34-year-old man and a 32-year-old woman were booked into the Pima County Jail on suspicion of 3 counts of kidnapping, 3 counts of child abuse, emotional abuse, and 3 counts of child abuse, physical abuse. The man also was accused of 1 account of sexual assault of a person under age 15, according to police who didn't immediately know last night if the couple had attorneys. The Associated Press is not naming the adults to avoid identifying the children. Tucson Police Captain Michael Gillooly said at a news conference that all 3 girls were malnourished and dirty, and they told officers that they hadn't taken a bath in up to 6 months. Gosh.
All right, sorry, I don't know what happened right there to me. All right, we need to move forward. Thank you for finishing that one for me, Robin. I apologize for coughing on the air.
It's okay. You're human.
I'll erase that from the tape. All right, that's what we do. We take the news. We don't cough, but we take the news, we shorten it, we bring it to you, and hopefully some of those stories are useful for you, at least to keep you up to date on some of the things that other shows will be talking about. We will talk about them as well at length in other parts of this show, but we do it every day at this time, bringing you news bites so that we can shorten the news and get you on with your day if you just want to know the facts, ma'am.
Yes, just the facts.
All right, we'll move forward right now. If you'd like to advertise on WOCA, I encourage you to do so, especially this time of year. You want to get more business through your doors, let people know about your specials. That is a hint, a little tip, a little advice. Don't just advertise your specials. Come into WOCA, sit with an account executive. They'll take you by the hand, show you how to do that on WOCA The Source, and make your business a better business at the end of this year. As we approach the end of the year. Robin, how many stories do we have?
22 stories.
22, not bad.
Yep.
Not bad. All right, we'll take a little break. We'll be right back. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Larry.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
ABC News Now. I'm Karen Chase. Stormy weather is greeting many holiday travelers as they begin what could be long and arduous trips home. The nasty storm coating the East Coast is threatening to tear up